Moving on to distracted driving now. What is distracted driving? A lot of people ask those questions. It's anything from dealing with your kids in your back seat. I'm guilty of that on a road trip. I'll look over my shoulder, and if my kids are breathing the same air, they're fighting. I understand the distractions. The ideal is to put those distractions away. Let someone else use the phone. Let someone else use the GPS, put the address in, change the radio station. Open your soda pop so you can have a drink going down the road. Those are for other people, or do what I have to do a lot of times when I'm working. I have to pull over. The Tahoe I drive has a computer, 3 radios, the radio in the dash. I've constantly got a dispatcher trying to tell me what to do. I have to pull over a lot of times. Around the county, you'll see me pulled over. I'm either on the phone, playing with the computer. Pull over and do those things if you have to. Those distractions are what's preventing us from getting from A to B. And the idea is to get from point A to B safely in one piece. Another big distraction is that cell phone, texting and driving. If you're texting behind the wheel, you increase your chance of having a collision by 400%. Those are huge numbers. Those are the numbers you take to Vegas with you, not to the highway. Everyone knows it's illegal to text and drive in Kentucky. It's a primary offense. Can we stop you? Will we stop you? I see you. We will. The very first person I ever seen after the law was passed, I knew she was texting. I knew she was. I pull her over, get up to the window, and she goes, "Ha, gotcha." I was actually on Google. I was buying new shoes. The judge didn't see it that way. She got the same violation as texting and driving and had to plead guilty to that. It doesn't matter what you're doing with a phone. Studies have shown that using a phone while driving, hands held, hands-free, talking, texting, doesn't matter, gives you the equivalent of having a BAC, a blood alcohol content, of 0.08. It's just as dangerous as being drunk behind the wheel. So put those phones away and get to where you're going. The average text message is about 4.6 seconds. At 55 miles an hour, that's a football field. We've all seen the commercials on TV. It's true. I've done the math, and I can show you how to do the math. It's there. This is a texting and driving video we like to show.
Now we want to move on to an alarming warning about texting while driving. You know it's dangerous. Many people still continue to do it, and now there's some frightening new video that proves how bad it can be. Here's NBC's Janet Shamlian.
On a busy Texas interstate, traffic up ahead is at a dead stop. You can see it, but the driver of this San Antonio City bus speeding down the road clearly had something else occupying his attention. Betty Jo Hummel was in the driver's seat of that SUV.
Here it comes. Oh my God, that's bad. It's horrible. It was the most horrific thing I've probably ever lived through.
With 2 disabled passengers strapped in behind him, why didn't the driver ever slow down? Take a look at what Adrian Perez was doing instead. He pulls out his cell phone and starts texting, and not just for a few seconds. For 6 minutes leading up to the crash, Perez was looking down, and when he finally focuses on the road, it's way too late. Now he's alert, and he knows he's in trouble. Perez isn't the only offender. These San Antonio City bus drivers are also driving while dealing with their phones. This woman texting at 65 miles an hour.
It's just like, pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention when you have so many lives at stake.
Betty Jo Hummel says she's lucky to be alive. Others caught between a cell phone and a driver haven't been as fortunate.
Texting and driving has become such an issue that people are actually going to prison for it now. As you can see, a 24-year-old's 3.5 years in prison, 20-year-olds. The one I always like to read and encourage people to read with me is, while texting his girlfriend, who was sitting in the car right next to him, a 29-year-old from Oregon hit and killed a 16-year-old, receives 2 years prison. Search and seizure of cell phones. We get a lot of questions about search and seizure. As you can see, can we get a search warrant? Absolutely. If I believe that that phone is the cause or root cause or in any way affecting the collision, I'll go get a warrant. Judges assign the warrant, I'll get the phone records, all your data from the carrier, everything. call history, location, text. Some carriers even give us the body of the text, so I'll know exactly what you're sending. Texting and driving while traveling in the U.S., 39 states it's a primary offense. Kentucky is one of them. Other states like D.C., there's 10 states that you cannot even touch your phone while driving. If you're the operator of the vehicle, no phones at all. So keep that in mind when you're traveling around. Young drivers. This is the group that hurts the most when you work a collision. When you see a young child, and I say child, 24 and below to me is still a child. 16 to 24-year-olds are the worst collisions I've ever worked. Although this group is only about 7% of the nation's licensed drivers, they're in 15% of all the collisions. And of their collisions, 6,000 teens a year are killed in a motor vehicle. The first year is the most dangerous year. More than 1 in 5 are involved in collisions. Half of those deaths are just like where I got my first speeding ticket. That trooper saved my life probably. It's between Friday and Sunday, between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. If you're like me, you got to be curfew home or you're not going to see her next Friday night. So you get in a bit of a hurry. Of all the drivers, 15 to 24-year-olds are involved in fatals. 32%, right at that 33% threshold, are speeding. Speed-related collisions. Seatbelts. I always like to tell everyone the same thing. Remember that little red car? That lady went to work and did 8 hours after being hit twice by a tractor trailer. That's all I should ever have to say about a seatbelt. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen, so we've got a few numbers for you. Seatbelts in Kentucky. In 2012, 54% of all the occupants killed were not wearing their seatbelts. Of those, 171 people were totally ejected from their vehicle. 146 of those people died. That's 85% people ejected were killed. 17 of those people ejected received an incapacitating injury, where you're numb from the hair down or you can't move anything from your waist. I worked 2 collisions that were minor, very minor fender benders, and they would stand here today and tell you that if they were wearing their seatbelts, they'd probably be walking up here to tell you. Both of them are numb from the chest down. They can't feel a thing. They have people helping them every day. So if you're ejected from a vehicle, you have a 95% chance of either receiving an incapacitating injury or dying. I get the same thing every time. That seatbelt's uncomfortable. It rubs a place on my neck. You know what's hot and uncomfortable? Caskets. We put a lot of people in them. This part is one of those interactive parts that it's going to throw me off a little bit because I always like to ask, anybody like to ride motorcycles? And I'll get 3 or 4 hands up, and I like to go ahead and thank you in advance for your donation, because if I ever need a kidney, you are the guys and girls I'm going to come to. A lot of people don't realize that when you go to Bike Week in Sturgis, or you go down to the East Coast and West Coast rallies, or Speed Weeks in Daytona, weeks leading up to that big event, people are being put in the hospital who need transplants. If you need a heart, kidney, lungs, you're laying in the hospital waiting because these bikes are coming to town and people die on motorcycles. And when you put 100,000 bikes in one spot, you have a lot higher chance of getting those parts that you need. It's morbid, it's ugly, it happens every year. Don't believe me? Go to Daytona and try to get in a hospital bed for some cosmetic surgery sometime during Speed Weeks. Not happening. So, with that being said, motorcycle safety in 2013, here in Kentucky, we had 72 fatalities. Of those 72 fatalities, 61 of those individuals died were not wearing their helmet. They're hot, they're uncomfortable. Like I said, so are caskets. Event data recorders. Everyone's heard of the little black box in your car. Have you ever wondered, do I have one or not? I tell everybody the same thing. If you have an airbag, you have one of these. And what this thing does is it monitors all the different systems in your car. Throttle, engine speed, RPM, the car speed. It's actually connected. Some of them are connected to a GPS internally. The side effect of that is when you have an event, a deployment or a really hard, when you cross the railroad tracks and this thing wakes up and says, oh my God, you need an airbag. Yeah, never mind, you don't need it. However, when you hit that car head on and it throws an airbag at you at 400 miles an hour, This is why. All those different systems inside of this car are being monitored by this thing. And what happens is it actually captures somewhere between 5 and 15 seconds of data. And we'll go back and we'll pull the data out of this thing and look at it. And what it tells me is speed of impact. It'll tell me the steering angle of the steering wheel. It'll tell me if your car rolls over, how many times it rolls over. All these different things. I worked one where a young man ran off the road and he said he wasn't doing more than 75 miles an hour. The little black box says he's doing about 126 miles an hour. So you tell me who's lying here. So just keep that in the back of your minds, how this thing works and what it's doing in your car. Braking chart. As you can see, this chart is broken up into different sections. If you're running 35 miles an hour down Green Street and a child runs out of Dairy Queen, that perception reaction gap time that we talked about earlier gives you a braking distance, total braking distance of about 135 feet. That's a long way when you're talking about a child. But wait a minute, you're more like me. So we're running 45 miles an hour down Green Street because everybody else is. Now that braking distance went to 195 feet. That's a long way when you're trying to get a car stopped, especially when there's a small child who just chased his balloon out in traffic. Out on the highways, out on the 4-lane roads and stuff, you ever wondered why out on the Audubon, out on the Penny Route, out on 69 or 75 going to Florida or Interstate 4, why so many animals get hit out on these 4-lane roads? It's wide open, it's huge areas out there. With that perception reaction gap time and the total distance of driving time, you have to remember that at 70 miles an hour, it's going to take you somewhere around 387 feet to stop that car. 300 feet, 387 feet is a long way to be looking. Most people don't know, but you're like me. At 80 miles an hour on the 4-lane roads, it's going to take 480 feet to stop that car. If you don't know it, your headlights only shine about 250 feet. So you're looking at twice the distance your car can see before you ever see the deer or coyote or whatever it happens to be. Stalled motorcycle on the side of the road, whatever it is, you're going to hit it before you ever see it. So. This is a braking video that we have that we like to show. It shows the difference in two vehicles.
What you're about to see will change your mind about speeding. Two identical cars, one travelling at 60, the other at 65. A sudden change in the road ahead, and both drivers first react, and then, a moment later, they brake. And things start to get interesting. Down here, the difference is extraordinary. In the last 5 metres of braking, you wipe off half your speed. So this car is still doing 32 k's when it hits. This one also hits, but only at 5 k's. So no matter how good a driver you are, 5 k's difference up there makes 27 k's difference down here.
Red lights. Half the people killed at red lights are pedestrians. If the vehicles that run the red lights kill pedestrians and other motorists far more than any other violators. Obey the traffic control devices. Don't run the red lights.
Thank you for watching this section of the CATS video. If you have any questions, you can contact us by emailing us at cats@hendersonky.us. You can visit our website, hendersoncats.com, or give us a call at 270-827-6008.